everyone to our point of view. And I'm looking for us to have a pretty interesting conversation today about a few different things. Just things that are specific to us, but certainly are general in terms of conversation. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself. I'm the host, Eric Jackson, part of the Our Point of View family. And if you all will, just introduce yourselves, starting with Brother Alvin. Just introduce yourself. And as a matter of fact, it's not like y'all can see the order. So after Alvin gets done, then I'll go to the next person. But if you could just tell us a little brief something about yourself that's good for the folks to know.
All right. My name is Alvin Lin. I hail from Southfield, Michigan. I am a Michigander. And my background is military, so I'm a retired Army veteran. I am also in the insurance industry. I'm a really cool grandfather of 9 grandchildren, and just looking forward to having a good time with you all this evening.
Man, that's totally awesome, and thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Appreciate.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And right below you, we'll come to my man known as Rich's Galaxy. At least that's what it says on the screen. But go ahead, Rich, tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Rich Sheffy. I hail from the 412, home of the black and gold, Pittsburgh, PA. My background I was just telling Alvin, 3rd generation haberdasher, master fitter. Father and grandfather were tailors. Entrepreneurship runs deep, and I'm a cool dad of 2, a 32 and a 23-year-old, and a cooler granddad of 3 who they just love calling me Poppy, and it does my heart great to hear them say that. I enjoy being here. This is a first for me. Jackie's been trying to get me on here for a while. I apologize for not getting here sooner, but I always enjoy talking amongst men and talking grown man stuff. So let's get it.
That's right. Nothing like, I'm not one, but certainly nothing like being a granddad. And I'm sure you can speak very passionately about that. So
love my baby.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And coming next up is Brother Trey. Trey, are you on deck? And if I see you moving, but I got a feeling that you can talk and chew gum at the same time. So give it to us, brother.
All right, man. I'm Travion Alexander, aka professionally known as Trey 80 the Future. I'm an artist from St. Louis, hailing out of St. Louis, living in Atlanta, Georgia. My background is purely entertainment, and I have some experience in the political realms. I'm here to shed some light from a millennial perspective, to bridge the gap between the baby boomers and my generation, see what the disconnect is and see what problems we can solve together.
Sounds like a plan. That sounds like a plan. We may be to touch on that. I know there was some words said about the whole political thing, but I believe that we'll see how that is. We'll see how we can roll with that. There's a message behind it, but perspective is always good. So but we'll come back to that. We'll see what we can do a light tap dance on. So yes, Brother Peters, how you doing, my man?
Good. How you doing, man?
Awesome.
Good to see you guys.
Good to be seen.
Rich, I didn't know you were from Pittsburgh, so welcome. Pittsburgh's my hometown, born and raised, currently reside in New Jersey. My background, former high school teacher, Pittsburgh Public Schools, pharmaceutical management that I retired from about 11 years ago. And so I'm currently retired. Kids have been grown and out, grandkids coming up. And my wife and I, we're just enjoying this great time together and really planning on some good things going forward.
Cool. It's all right. Well, man, I appreciate you all doing that and just kind of lending a little perspective to the diverse group of young men that I see here on the screen. And With that said, man, I want to jump right into it. One thing, there's some commonality with a couple of geographic locations where you all are from. So that reminds me of a certain team that reminds me, even though I'm a Southern Cal kid, it reminds me of one of the topics we're going to talk about, and that is sports. And just that whole outlook, man, there's been so many changes, everything from, wow, from the whole coming back into the sports arena and conditions dealing with COVID and high paying contracts and all these different things that factor into it, certain causes, be perfectly blunt, Black Lives Matter and these other things that have come into play. Just kind of want to start the conversation, get some perspective on that whole sports scene. And it can be football, baseball, soccer, whatever, but just how those things are seemingly playing out right now, from an entertainment perspective, but also a safety perspective, because we know folks are getting back into the game, big crowds and precautions and all that stuff. So what's your take on that? Where do you see things right now?
But I'm gonna start by saying this. Contrary to popular belief, I don't follow sports. So I don't sit and I don't watch games. I don't, I have relatives that can tell you, the players from A to Z. That's not me. When I grew up, my father had me helping him build his business now in the electrical trade field. And so that's what I knew. And if I did play sports, it was just on the street, but I have never actually followed a sports team at all, to be honest with you. Football, basketball, baseball, it really doesn't matter. Now, I will sit and I will watch certain games, championship games, or things like that. So I'm not the guy to turn to and say, Alvin, who's your favorite team? Well, actually, the team that's winning when I'm watching is my favorite team. So that's Alvin. Now, and I just think that's fair. That's fair. That's fair for me to say right up front. But when we talk about people gathering together and COVID and how COVID has wiped out over 500,000 folks before we had the vaccine. Mm-hmm. Well, I can chat about that, because that really got my attention, how people can be ignorant to it and not do nothing about it and essentially watch other folks die. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that, and I don't want to get carried away and make COVID a topic, but that just came out.
Well, you know what? That is interesting, because, and I don't know about the other brothers on the show, but man, I don't think I've heard that perspective before. So the fact that you really, not to say, and I think you've made it clear that you're not saying you don't have an interest, because you at least will sit down and see who's playing and what's going on. But we know folks that are diehard, and I'm not saying that to any of the hosts here, but we know folks that are towel twirlers, that really get into the game or whatever sport that is. But for you to have said that is actually a little bit different, because then my question then becomes, well, and you explained it, but is that something that you, in retrospect, feel as though you missed, or you kept it moving? Okay.
No, not at all. No, not even. For me, when I joined the Army at 19 years old, and I became a soldier, and still, it's not that I wouldn't play, I just didn't follow professional sports. So I have 3 brothers. And a host of first cousins, and some of them actually played professional sports. Mm-hmm. I just never gravitated toward it. Where my expertise is and what I really, really enjoy, I actually enjoy being in the Army. After I got down the road a little bit and became a senior kind of guy, I really enjoyed helping folks, you know, and I'm still very good as an electrician. So what I learned at 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I still have that as a skill set. So I'm able to go out and apply that as well. So I know I'm not that kind of guy that will actually sit down, and I'm just not that person. You know, I didn't mean to get over, I'm all over the place right now, but the point I want to make is I don't regret not doing anything regarding sports. That's not a big deal for me at all.
I've
And
talked to many individuals who feel the same way. Uh, they're not into sports. They don't follow sports. They may occasionally watch a game. If they are invited to a game, it's a free ticket. They may go.
Yeah.
But no, they have no problem with not being into sports. They don't feel that they've missed anything. So Eric, when you asked that question, I already knew what was coming. For someone who's just not into it, they're not into it.
Nah,
Right.
I'm not.
I'm on the flip side. When I was born in July '64, Dad came to the hospital with a baseball bat and a glove because in '64 baseball was the sport. My grandfather was a diehard Pirates fan. He passed in 1960 after they won the World Series. In 1970, my dad and my uncle, my godfather, they started working at Three River Stadium as ushers. They went the whole 30 years and worked a couple years at PNC Park and Heinz Field. Then I came along and I started working at Heinz Field for 14 years, operating the elevator. My sisters and I, nieces, nephews, my children, the family, we're definitely diehard Steeler fans. We've gotten away from baseball simply because the Pirates organization is who they are. But I was the only Black kid in elementary school watching hockey in '74, '75. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago at my job, a gentleman comes in to bring in his clothes for tailoring, and who do I meet? One of my first hockey heroes for the Penguins. He just came in a couple days ago again, and he's like, "How you doing, my friend?" Shakes my hand. I'm like, "This is so cool."
Mm-hmm.
While
Wow.
operating the elevator at Heinz Field for 14 years, I had the pleasure of having the Roonies on my elevator, various celebrities, athletes, you name it. And I wore number 47 in high school because of Mel Blount. And he gets on my elevator, and I'm like, I'm starstruck, but I'm still doing my job. But I've learned in
Wow.
playing high school sports, football and volleyball, and being the only boy out of 6, yeah, totally spoiled, whatever. The brotherhood,
Wow.
the
Mhm.
brotherhood, and I was taught to not just play the game, be a student of the game you're playing, be a student of the game you enjoy.
Right.
So when I watch a game, I just watch it. Then I start looking deep into it. I'm looking at the sidelines, the coaches' expressions, all that. Again, hockey is just a sport where on TV it's one thing to watch, but in person, your head is on a swivel, and it's crazy. We grew up watching hockey, watching golf, because my dad was a 45-year weekend golfer. So sports for me was, again, as the only boy, it was part of my life. I was that '70s kid watching Wide World of Sports. So I watched car racing, figure skating, skiing, you name it. Did I do it all? No, but it was intriguing to watch.
Man, it's interesting, and I'm gonna come to you, Trey, and get your perspective here on that sports scene. But it's just funny. Growing up, I was a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates too, and let me let you try to guess. Guess who? And it's gonna totally trip you out. And again, I'm young, not knowing. I'm just following a particular figure, but on the Pittsburgh Pirates, I had a favorite player that I tried to emulate and everything. You want to take a guess who that was?
Give me a year, because I could say Clemente, Rennie
It was in
Stennett,
the, it would have been in the Tanner. Was that the manager?
Chuck
Was
Tanner.
it Willie Stargell?
No. It's in that era, but no.
Okay.
I give you one more guess.
Dave Parker.
No.
Omar Marino.
No. Kent Takovi.
Oh, I remember him.
Teak.
Yeah.
Teak.
And when I tell you, I was fascinated with that sidearm pitch of his.
Yes.
So
yes.
man, I did the whole, I mean, saw Willie Stargell and all those others, man, but it was something about Kent Takovi. I mean, the whole hat, the glasses, how he pitched, how he stood up on the mound. It just interests me because no one, it was one other person in the major leagues that was pitching balls like that, but he was the main one. I think Quisenberry, I played for the Royals, I believe. I think he was the only other one, but other than that, it was him. So yeah, been around sports a long time. Pittsburgh, that was my team back then, along with the Steelers. And there were some other teams in there, but those teams were just iconic, just coming up. But Trey, what's your take on that, man? And I'll say with your generation, because I'm gathering, I'm 53, so I'm gathering you're younger than I. But
Indeed.
what with your circle of folks, what's that outlook on sports? Do y'all like it? What's
So as far as liking, I've definitely always been a fan of sports. I've never been, I agree with Alvin. Like I've never been more a diehard fan or advocate for, I gotta watch this game or I gotta see these people play. I was more so like, I love to see a good game. I love to see like whoever winning and like however it's going. I like to see that. But as far as my interest in being involved in sports, I was involved in football my junior year in high school, my junior to senior year up to my freshman year in college. And I also did boxing. So like I always resonated with people who honed a particular skill set. Me, myself, I have a background in entertainment as I expressed to you all a little bit earlier. So it's entertaining to watch these sports. It's entertaining to see a good show, a good fight, a good game, whether it's hockey, baseball, basketball, football. I wasn't opposed to sitting in on those games or watching them, but my thing was more so the summer and winter Olympics. So I could see like different types of sports, people doing different things, snowboarding, skiing, the water rafting, like stuff like that you don't really see people do. Those were my interests, like just seeing how you could push the human physiology to the peak.
Right. Interesting perspective. Interesting. Just goes to show you that, look, everybody, just because we come up around it doesn't mean everybody has to be totally, all hands and all feet in.
No, I totally get you. Like I played running back and slot receiver from my junior year in high school to my freshman year in college. I was drafted. I was D1. I got scholarships from all over to play football, and I was basically the talk of the town when I was doing my thing back in 2012, 2013. I decided to go to a HBCU that offered more money academically because my pursuit was never football or was never sports. So I had a $16,000 academic athletic scholarship and a $56,000 academic scholarship. So
That's
I just
awesome.
junction like, I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna play football and let that carry me or give me something to do while I'm on campus. But I was never like, oh, I gotta study Ben Roethlisberger because he's the best quarterback, and I gotta study Brett Favre. That wasn't never my mojo.
And before I go to Brother Peters, let me throw this on you to get your opinion about this. So when Coach Deion recruited that top rated, I believe it's a running back down at Jackson State, could you kind of one, could you resonate with that, or do you have a understanding or rationale behind that whole decision and why that brother went there as opposed to a typical or mainstream D1 school?
I think it's because of the leadership. You know, you got Deion Sanders, you got Primetime, you got one of the greats that's coaching the game, that's like bringing you under his leadership. Obviously, he see potential in you as a running back or as whatever position that you play, because he scouted many other people. But the of him making a decision, I believe, is tapping into that that untapped potential. You know, in like, okay, I know what to do to bring that out of you, and these other people are not going to be able to culture that. You know, you're going to be around a lot of conventional methods, which is not going to bring out your greatness.
That's a very good point, and I'm glad that you said leadership as opposed to anything else. That's exactly what I'm thinking right there. That is primarily based on his proven leadership. That's the reason why that young man took that choice. I'm thinking that way.
Like, where can you who do I trust to help improve my skills? Just like I'm talking to, you know, all the gentlemen on this panel, like we all have a common goal, which is to bring that information or bring light to some of these situations or some of these conversations that's not being had. So who do I trust to be in leadership for that, or to put in position to have these conversations, or put in position to coach this team, or, you know.
And along those lines, what's your thoughts on that, Brother Peters?
Well, I grew up in a very different era. I grew up in the 50s and 60s. So sports really wasn't anything more than just kind of playing and participation. But much like Trey said, leadership, teamwork, honing skills, the fellowship that you receive, that was more valuable in preparation for life than it was trying to be a professional athlete. That didn't really come along for me until maybe the 70s and the 80s. When I was teaching, I saw a lot of students try to go on to professional careers at that particular point. And one of the things we tried to get them to focus on was that professional sports actually prepares you for your eventual career. You sit, I have now on ESPN, NFL Network, you know, all these guys are auditioning, trying to get on to that second career. So to have a free education and several millions of dollars in the bank to launch you into your next career, I mean, that's we've come quite a ways. So it's prompted me, especially during the pandemic in the last few years, as I've been retired, to really look at the economic side of sports. So that's kind of where I am right now. I am a diehard Steeler fan. You know, I live and die every Sunday. I dress up in black and gold, you know, to sit here and watch. I just had a news thing come across my phone. In fact, we lived in Cleveland for about,
I hate to interrupt you, man, but let me tell you, I got a first cousin just like you.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. That's Pittsburgh.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying.
The best trip is travel when I fly from Jersey to Pittsburgh, and you walk into the airport and you see black and gold decorated. Because Jersey's not like that. You go in Newark Airport, you know, you see I Love New York. You don't really see a heavy team thing, because there are Giants, there's Dallas Cowboys, but when you go to Pittsburgh, it's just one team. So in any event, the economics of sports is where I kind of wanted to go, because when you look at how sports are structured now, and it's such a mainstream, that other leg of entertainment that I like to look at, and we saw how much we missed it during the pandemic. And when you see how these guys are making decisions that impact cities, communities, and they're impacting the lives of our youth, you know, it behooves me to try to get young people to really understand the dynamics of finances.
Yes.
Because right now they're going, they're going through salary cap. If you ever try to sit down and understand salary cap, it's a whole new thing in terms of finance, statistics, and all of that type of stuff. And they had a movie called Draft Day with Kevin Costner. And his girlfriend in the movie was actually the cap person for their team. And to see them talk about that lingo, and a lot of the owners now that have moved in, they're big business owners now. You know, you don't have that family tradition like the Steelers passed down from one Rooney to another Rooney to another Rooney. Now you have guys coming out of Carnegie Mellon, like the one of the owners of the Charlotte football team, the Panthers, coming out of big business and getting into sports. They're bringing in that big business mentality. So with this season of free agency, what you're seeing is that you'll get the big contract after your rookie campaign, but then after that you become a cap casualty. We got a couple people over the past couple of days. Other teams have gotten a couple people over the past. So you ask for the big money, and what happens is it only lasts for maybe a year or two. Next thing you know, you make too much money for the team. We've got to get somebody cheaper. How does that manifest itself into the marketplace? You've always got to go back to early training, got to be prepared, got to have education, got to have a focus on what that next move is going to be. So that's kind of how I look at sports now, because I've gone through that phase of playing them, being involved in them. I wish I had the opportunities that young people have now to be able to plan from age 12 or 13 that you want to be a football player, basketball player, baseball player. But at that particular time, what we were going through as a country and then as a race of people, your freedom was a lot more important than bouncing the ball and catching the football.
I agree. You and I, we're probably the same generation. So yeah, absolutely. You know, I got to share this with you. And my thought is, you know, how does this equate to the guy that's out there working right now? So we could look at the entrepreneur. We could look at Trey for an example, you know, and earning money. See, so there's a point where you're earning money. So how do you manage that money, you know, and even Rich and myself, because I'm in the insurance industry, you know, so I'm still earning money. However, I am retired. As a matter of fact, my wife is retired. So there's a retirement there, but I'm still working because I want to.
Right.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I enjoy what I do. But how do you take what you're earning and how do you make that and manage that? And that's what I'm hearing when we talk about sports. We got these guys who make this money, right? And then they're told, hey, listen, you're capped here. So what have you done? How are you managing that? And how does that equate to folks that are not in that industry? Like, again, Trey, I'm curious. I've said your name twice, so I'm curious how Trey actually is managing how he's moving forward, even in his finances.
And you know what? That is a perfect segue, and I'm gonna go right to you, Trey. That's a perfect segue into another area of discussion, that being entrepreneurship, you know, and working for somebody versus working for yourself. And just to take it from Brother Alvin right on the tray, just wanted to get your perspective or your thoughts about entrepreneurship, and if that's the avenue, and it sounds like it is the avenue that you're pursuing versus working for somebody else.
Indeed. So my perspective on entrepreneurship is that's the only perspective. Working for other people has been very daunting in my life. I've always had a mindset of ownership. I've always had a mindset of, you know, generational wealth, what can I do to make my children's children prosper, or that will affect my children's children. So getting into the realms of doing for self, it's a lot of barriers that are in place with the information on how to start a business, like finding mentors who will really like coach you through the game, because, you know, if you coming up in a certain area of expertise, then people gonna see you as their competition, especially if you talented or good at what you do. They not gonna want to pass them, you know. So I faced a lot of that within my entrepreneurship, and it goes back to ownership. Like, how do I want to own my brand? Do I want to own my time? Do I want to exchange my time for money, or do I want to exchange a product and service for money? And then if I do that, if I become that product or service, how can I upkeep that? So building a team is very important in entrepreneurship, and maintaining, just having a goal or a focus. Okay, I want to sell 100,000 units this year. How am I going to get that? Then you reverse engineer the goal.
Right.
Being under guidance of several, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you get in there in a second, but like I'm dealing with different industries at the same time, all enveloping entertainment. So I'm learning different skill sets at the same time, which a lot of people would say is counterproductive. It's a sliding scale. I got videography and cinematography on one hand. I got stage management. I got booking agent. I got copyright. Like, I'm just doing all of these things for myself, and I'm like, how can I turn this into a business? How can I turn this into a skill set that, or how can I use my skill set and turn it into a business that would profit me greatly? It's understanding the need in the market. I know that artists need videos. I know that artists need graphics. I know that businesses need videos and graphics. So that's one avenue of entrepreneurship that I lean towards, because it's like, it's going to help me with my craft. If I get a video shot, I'm going to know how to edit it. So
Eric,
I can everybody else. Go ahead. Listen.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just want to respond, and this is probably the teacher part of me coming out, as well as the business part. And because we struggle with the youth groups that I dealt with a lot of young people with entrepreneurship. And you hear that word, especially during the pandemic, because it gave a lot of people an opportunity to discover some things they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
First thing we used to always emphasize, and that is, anything that you go into and as an endeavor, there has to be a period of preparation.
Absolutely.
So I've always taught my kids that having a job is not a bad thing, because look at what you've learned from a job. If it was that bad, we still wouldn't be fighting for equal rights in terms of employment. We wouldn't be doing the things that we're doing to try to get the foot into those industries. But the other part of entrepreneurship is internship.
Right.
And so you got an internship somewhere. You know, like a lot of the guys like Mike Tomlin, coach of the Steelers, a lot of the guys there, they had to become a coach in order to understand how to be a head coach. Then they take you through coordinators and all of the positions. Well, in the entertainment industry, it's, you know, what are your goals? What are your direction? Marketing. Because what I find when I look at Facebook is everybody's marketing the same way. But if you understand marketing, there are different ways to market. When you get into sales, we do a thing called target audience. So when your sales start to change, do you evaluate why they're changing? And do you evaluate, am I still with the right target, or should I change targets? Well, you only learn those pulses when you've been in an industry, or you've been in a setting where you can understand that. Black businesses, I think, have gotten to a nice point in 2020, 2022. But to get to that ultimate level, there's structure. Even when I taught school, everything was structure. And so when I came out, as you know, Alvin, very structured kinds of people, we came out. You only get structure when you're a part of structure. You can't get structure from chaos. So that's why when you see a lot of the reality shows and you see all of the crazy stuff going on, and all the relatives and the entourages hanging around, that's chaos. Real companies don't operate like that. They don't. There's a HR department, and hopefully I won't offend anybody here, but where I see the biggest gaps is when you look at a lot of Black churches, where they become business focused as well as providing, a house of worship. But what happens is they don't have the structure of an HR department.
Right.
So somebody has a gripe. They've got an issue like we had in Atlanta, and it hits the news before you can even react, because there's no HR department to figure out. At our church, if you have a hiring issue, who do you go to talk to? The bishop? Is it based on the most money you gave? Is it based on the seat you sit in? So without that structure, you only get to a certain level of success. If you want ultimate level of success, the better you understand the environment and the business that you're in, and you understand all components, then it's a lot easier to run all components. When I became
and you don't have to, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Trey. I'm going to say this to you, brother. You don't have to do everything, but you have to be a student of what you are building. You have to. If you don't, you're going to run into a problem. And when we talk about structure, you mentioned something. You mentioned generational wealth.
Right.
And see, when you talk about generational wealth, that comes in the form, actually, people don't know this, but that actually comes in the form of insurance.
Right.
You can take life insurance, and I help people with this on a daily basis. And you can make that a part of your generational wealth strategy. So just keep those in mind. But what I want to tell you is all the things that you're doing, we all had to learn.
Right.
Rich runs a business. He didn't just jump in there and start. He had to go from the ground level. When I joined the military, I was a private before I became a first sergeant. That was 20 years of work before I was able to manage 140 people before I retired. You
Wow.
see, I mean, it's all learning. So what I want to encourage you with right now, it doesn't hurt to have a job to get to where you can become a successful entrepreneur. You can learn along the way. If you have to work at Joe's hamburger spot, for an example, well, I take that back, forget Joe's. Get into an internship that is going to help you hone your skills. And as you learn, you're going to get two things out of it. One, you're going to create networks of people that are going to see your worth and your skill set, and they're going to help to put you on a fast track. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Take your time to figure things out and ask for help. If you do that, you're going to avoid those rabbit holes. You will, I promise you that. So just keep that in mind. I don't want to get long-winded, but man, I'm telling you, because I've done that, and these other brothers have too. Success does not come without temporary failure.
Right.
I use the word temporary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
How you
So
lace that?
Just the one thing in terms of wealth, a lot of people use that word, and the only thing that I would add on to that is wealth comes in the form of money, but it comes
That's
in
right.
the form of information.
Absolutely.
Okay. And sometimes I don't have the money to pass down to people. I don't have the money to give to people, but wealth of information is very, very important. And I'll give you a real quick example. Jackie was one of my students in the 8th grade. And one of the things I insisted upon was that you be not only in the classroom, but in your seat on time, and that you be prepared. Okay. So you see now with her running her show and running us, that it's become a part of her MO. That hey, I want you need to be here, you need to be present in the moment, you need to be in your seat, you need to be prepared for the show. Because that was the second question she asked, like, are you prepared? What's the topic for the night? And those are things that we did routinely. And I just don't want young people to miss out on the fact, because we say that, so I hear that word so often, I don't even like to use wealth too much anymore, because wealth of information can carry you as far as anything.
That's right.
And that's where you mentioned like the internship, you mentioned a job, being a part of an organization, you get the firsthand view of how it runs and how it operates. That's very, that type of stuff we pass on, like recipes.
Right. Most definitely.
Our famous recipes. I mean, a lot of people created food products from information and wealth of stuff passed down from one generation to the other. It's just the other side of the dollar. And I just don't want people just only think that wealth refers to just money.
That's
And,
right.
and I wanted to real quick get Rich's perspective on that too, obviously, because I know you mentioned about owning in business and so forth, and just want to real quick get your perspective on some of that was talked about.
Well, as Brother Ron just said, it's all about knowledge. Knowledge and information will get you to that wealth. As Brother Alvin said, ask. Don't think you can take it all on yourself and be Superman. If you need help, ask for help. And when you seek help, seek it from, as you said, Trey, someone who knows it. I myself, I grew up in it. It was right there at the dinner table. It was in the game room. It was in the station wagon. It was wherever dad was. And growing up, I didn't know, I thought I was going to just play college football. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know that dad was going to groom me
Mhm.
to walk in his footsteps. He did it without me knowing it. How about
Right.
that? So what happened, I graduated from Peabody. He asked me if I want to go to college. I asked, can we afford it? He says, don't worry about it. I went right into the tuxedo business. What I watched from there from 1982 was a leader, a professional, and one who was strong on the family legacy that he learned from my grandfather. And it was all about carrying the family name with this legacy, take this information and run with it. Did he teach me the tailoring part? No. He told me, I want you to be out front. You're going to be the new face. I want you to know how to talk to people, how to listen to people. With my history of work, it's always been about learning. If I'm working here or there, I've been building the blocks to get to where I am.
Right.
Now I'm at a point where all I have to do is walk out the house with my measuring tape. And people know he does something. And they have to ask, what is it you do? So I wear my profession, not quite on my sleeve, but around my neck. It's a way of keeping my dad, my grandfather close to me. And I learned from my dad, don't just take it and run, share it, teach it to the next ones.
That's right.
Pass it forward.
Yes.
I certainly believe in paying it forward and continuing that. And along those lines, from each one of you, based on your life experiences and your successes, even including your failures, with you, Brother Peters, you feel you are a good role model?
I really do. I really do. And I've proved that. So I believe in application. There's
Yeah.
one thing that I feel that way, but can you look for very specific areas of application? So remember, I was a teacher, but I spent quite a few years in sales. So it was always about applying what you learned. So I just had a youth group up here that I retired from a few years ago. It's called Boys to Men. And what it was a transitional program that I developed, and I ran it out of our church. And it was to prepare young men ages 14 to 18 for transitioning in from being a young man into men. So we tackled areas, grooming, economics. We did preceptorships in different areas. And because there was such a drop off with black males, that at that particular time, the girls were getting the grooming, but there wasn't anything for the guys. And so that was application. And from that, and you see from Jackie, I mean, most of the people, Rich, that you probably know, I probably know half the people that you know, having taught in Pittsburgh Public School District. And Jackie will not call me Ron, because they called me Pete or Mr. Pete. And so I think that's the highest tribute that you can have as a teacher looking back. Your students still refer to you as the name they referred to you in school.
So, Trey, what about you? And particularly, do you find it challenging to not only be a role model, but just maintaining that and not getting caught in a lot of the mainstay or a lot of the fray in this day and time?
Without a doubt, brother Eric, it was actually one of my topics that I proposed. Is bridging the gap between generations, baby boomers to millennials, through mentorship, like where to start and how does that look. I'm still learning, so I still am prone to making mistakes. I still am prone to, getting it wrong. During my learning process, I've ran across people who have showed me favor and have poured into me, that have helped me grow and have helped me pay those lessons forward. So everything I do or everything that I learn, I try to teach to the next person, as we just previously stated. But that's not necessarily a culture in our culture. That's not a norm in our culture for people to pass that information along. So talking to gentlemen like you all, and getting that guidance from the older generation is very well needed. I'm president of an organization called Black People United. Millennial president. I represent the social and civil rights chapter. I represent, all things millennial coming to the organization. And I'm kind of the liaison between the older generation and the younger generation. So basically the game that the older people give me, I run it to the younger people in a way that they can understand. So I translate it for them. And doing that and being the middleman or the median for that, I pick up a lot of information like, okay, I'm trusting you with this. This is what I need you to teach them or tell them. And then I'm thinking to myself, how you gonna ask me to tell them and you just told me, So it's like few are called, but many are called, but few are chosen. And for the positions that I am in my life, I was definitely chosen. I was definitely chosen to be a voice for the people as a viral rap artist and as a voice for the people from doing, petitions against state education boards and board of trustees for removing liberal arts programs from a liberal arts college down to representing in the streets, getting these people to come join our organization or getting the different help that they need. So I still need help in building my curriculum, but the agenda is for us to get ourselves together, to get our families together, to get the community together. Once the community is together, we all start a business and we all interchange money. And once we interchange funds, we provide products or services that we need as a group collectively, then we can create a nation. So I feel like every conversation, that every step that I take is towards that. So in the essence of being a good role model, I would wrap it up as saying, yes, I'm definitely on the course. Have I been entirely? No, I've made mistakes, but can people learn from my experience, and do I present my experience in a way that people can gain value from it? Absolutely.
I certainly believe, man, that to a large extent we're all lifelong learners, and there's something that we're learning. My pops, I remember he would tell me, and I still experience it to this day. You learn something new every day. It may not be literally, but in a way, and sometimes in a way that it is. But there's always some experience, some life experience, some challenge, something that you're learning from every day. And when you agree, Alvin, that from those experiences, not only does it make you a better person, a stronger person, or can it make you a better person, stronger person, but it can also ratchet up that role model status for you, so that you in turn can be a better teacher, a better living example of any number of things, everything from fatherhood to entrepreneurship or whatever that is.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, that I do believe that. I actually believe the more that you are engaged mentally, spiritually, in society as a whole, you benefit from that. You benefit, and I'm a firm believer. I'm a firm believer that what you learn, you should teach. We call it train a trainer in some of the industries that I've been in. So
Right.
I exited my military career and went into corporate America. And I got into sales as well. Train a trainer. The more, if you look, you can actually look at this in a selfish way if you want to. The more you teach and train, the better you become.
Exactly.
And the more you teach and train, the better you become, the more you teach and train. So you actually benefit just as much as the entity you're teaching and training. So when you're talking about mentorships and when you're talking about things like that, I'm actually a part of a group. It's a part of Rotary International, but we deal with young men and young ladies here in Southfield, Michigan. and we do something similar to what Ron has done. You know, I would much rather, I don't like being talked at. So I make it a point not to talk at people. If you don't understand me, it's perfectly said. People call me Mr. Alvin. Maybe they don't like Lin. I don't care. It's all right. but I make sure when I'm talking to someone, I want them to fully understand what I'm saying. And if they do, then I can help them. If you're telling people, well, you ought to wear and you should do, and you better do this, and that's a turnoff. You know, you got to make it understood. So when we're talking trainer and helping other people, we got to be mindful within ourselves and be comfortable with where we are in life in order to do that successfully. And yeah, that's at the core of what I am and who I am right there.
And Rich, clearly I remember there was a statement that was made a number of years ago from a rather famous individual and say, look, I'm not the role model. Don't look at me for that. Clearly, there's been a shift in that. And in fact, where there is a level of responsibility that we should have in being a role model. Would you agree? Or
I look at being a role model as what my dad once told me. Don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. If you can take your knowledge and pass that on to the younger ones, it's good knowledge. It's something they can use to become citizens of this great world we live in. If you're not going to be a role model, then what are you? Are you doing it for self? Are you doing it for someone who's made up in your mind? No, you take it, you share it. I've had the pleasure of being asked for several years now to speak to the young men of 100 Black Men of Western Pennsylvania. It's to talk to them about, of all things, dress for success, dress to impress, and how to dress for interviews.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've done, I've taken that, how to dress, and I put in a little lesson about life.
Mm-hmm.
At 18, at 17, at 14 to 19, young men don't know about life. If I can take clothing to start the conversation and then transfer it to life, throw in what my dad has taught me, yeah, that's what I'm to do.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy doing it.
mm-hmm.
I enjoy watching the faces as I talk to them about dressing a certain way, living a certain way. And when you get this, and when you're in your 20s and you start living it, 25 isn't too young to pass it on to the next one. Matter of fact, I'm passing it on to my grandsons, and they're 6 and 8, and they get it. They get it, and I enjoy doing it. It's my call. It's my duty. And if I don't do it, then I failed somewhere, and I'm not going to fail them.
Right. And that's a very true point. And along those lines, and I'm gonna switch reels on you, along those lines of success and certainly some of those milestones that we as men have attained and through hard work and sacrifice and so forth, Brother Alvin, do you feel that there is, again, it's a totally different subject, but do you feel there's a pressure to be married, to have that significant other under your arm or by your side, you know, with all this goodwill and success and so forth?
I can't, you know what, I'm gonna be honest with you. Let me say it like this. I can't talk about nobody else, but I can talk about Alvin. All right. Now when we talk about me, I'm gonna tell you, I believe so much in the sanctity of marriage that I've done it more than once.
Mm.
And I am married. I'm married right now. So now, and I believe in it. I believe in what it represents at a spiritual level. So pressure, I can't answer. I can't really speak to that about today because you can look at any different. You can look at social media. You can look at television. It gives so many mixed messages that it can. I believe, in my opinion, I believe it can be confusing. I believe people get these mixed messages, and it comes across in so many different ways that it's not as important um, to people. And I guess that might be a really good question for Trey, because I'll put you right out there, Bubba.
I'm ready.
Stick your chest out.
I'm about
The
to
buck has been passed.
look. Actually, 7 months ago, I got married. 4 months ago now.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations, man.
I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
I appreciate y'all, but I also want y'all to understand where I'm coming from. At 26, I'm about to be 27. I definitely felt pressure to be married. A lot of people around me was like, man, you got too much going on. You can't handle all this by yourself. You need somebody there to hold you accountable, bam, in the third. So I'm like, okay. And I really, became vulnerable. I gave that part of myself to somebody who wasn't quite ready. You know what I'm saying? And I don't feel like I was quite ready because I thought that I had it figured out, just moving in 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom townhouse from a 1-bedroom apartment. So like I'm making strides forward in my career. Like I'm connecting with people, I'm networking, my videos going viral, millions of views all over the world. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a great position. I was signed to a contract in a bad label. And one of the people who I was working with told me like, man, you really need to find you a wife. So after that point, I was like, it was a subconscious thought for a moment, but then it started coming into the forefront. Like, who of my friends or who that I've already connected with would I want to create something long-term with, who I would want to create that longevity with. And I got into a situation, which is very difficult for me to even express right now. It's like, yeah, I definitely would have waited had I known that things would have gone, like we got together right before the pandemic. So everything, and we was closed in together. You got to see everything bad about me. I got to see everything bad about you. Close quarters, and we was literally mandated by the state that we couldn't go nowhere. So it's like, I learned the statement. This OG at my job used to tell me when I was working 911 dispatch. She used to tell me, women, you can't live with them, but you can't shoot them. So it's like,
that's not. Wait a minute.
I'm talking about. He was giving me the sort of, just like dropping little parables on me, dropping little hints on me. Like,
This is being taped too.
I'm like, oh geez, just tell me the boot. Like, tell me what it is. Tell me the real, so I can know how to navigate this. He like, hey man, I'm gonna tell you like this. Like, it's work. Marriage is definitely work for anybody out there looking to get married or that's going through that process. You got to understand your partner. You got to understand y'all strengths and weaknesses. Y'all have to have that all-inclusive conversation beforehand. Marriage, that's definitely vital and important. I can get a game on how not to do it. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And real quick, man, we are so up against the clock. I cannot believe it. So I'm gonna go to Brother Ron, and I'm gonna go to Rich to close us out with that question. But if you can do so, give me 40 seconds. Your thought on that pressure, because I know pressure busts pipes, but I also know that pressure makes a beautiful diamond.
Ooh wee! That's my birthstone.
So Brother Ron.
But during the time frame that I was Trey's age, there wasn't pressure, it was an expectancy. It wasn't a whole lot of stuff to do. I mean, it wasn't people traveling internationally like that from my community in Pittsburgh. So it was kind of expectancy. So I guess
Right.
if there was a pressure from expectancy, then there was some level of pressure. Because what as soon as I got married, what happened after that was things just kind of opened up. Then the pressure was, you know, can you get into a situation where you can enjoy the best of both worlds, which
Gotcha.
was with having this and having that. So that was probably more pressure than the pressure to get married for me.
Got you. And Rich, bring us home.
I'll close out with this. In my own point of view, no pressure. Back to you.
Look at him. Look at him.
I don't think it gets any simpler than that.
That's right.
Right.
And speaking of the pressure, man, I'm kind of feeling the pressure right now. So as we begin to close us out, man, I'm gonna ask for our executive producer, our wonderful friend, and that of Jacqueline Shealy. She's come back online and close us out. But I want to appreciate every single one of y'all, Alvin, Ron, Trey, Rich, man. I appreciate y'all coming online and just sharing some perspective, talking about those things, man, that are just not only important to us in this circle as Black men, but as men, period, because there are some things that just, you know, don't necessarily have a color or ethnicity associated with it. It's just
That's right.
the trials and tribulations of manhood, just things that we go through. But we know we just need to stay in tune to what's going on around us and about this here, and knowing that, hey, we have to, you know, sometimes that means we have to put in the time, we have to put in the work, we have to make those allowances and go above and beyond what's normal, what's expected. So I appreciate all you all's perspective and, quite frankly, y'all's point of view. So until the next time, everything that you heard, everything that you said is our point of view. Man, I appreciate y'all for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I was waiting for one of those screens to fill itself up, but I guess it won't. So in that case, like I said, we will be doing this again. I don't know when an opportunity is going to come, but we shall gather again, and we're going to talk about some other stuff, because I'm looking at my list, man. We barely got through half of it. But hey, that's how it is. That's
There
what
you
we
go. Yeah.
So
yeah.
but
Appreciate
once
you.
again, man, yes, sir. Once again, we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you on next time.
All righty.
Can't wait.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Good meeting you all.
Yes,
Same
sir.
here, Alvin.
The pleasure is mine. Pleasure is mine.